let's go over 10 more secret areas hidden throughout the world of Tyria. In the number 10 spot is the highest point in the Gilded Hollow Guild Hall. This guild hall was introduced in the Heart of Thorns expansion and is only available to explore if you are a member of a guild that has this guild hall as their guild hall instead of any of the other 3. Where all 4 guild halls have some pretty cool areas, and we've explored one in the Gilded Hollow in another video, but I want to take to the sky, where you can climb up pretty high into the sky. Back in the day, you would have to build a staircase with a ton of decorations to get up, but nowadays it's relatively easy with the sky scale. And as we get up here, there's a ton you can explore. It is a really massive area, probably even bigger than the rest of the guild hall down below, except for the fact that a good chunk of it is open air. You can find a ton of exalted ruins, there are a lot of special hidden areas, there's tons of vines, trees, and other plants, and so on and so forth. There's honestly a lot to this area, and we could probably spend a solid 15 minutes just quickly going around this area to glance at everything, but the coolest part is that once you get high enough, you can see the Heart of Thorns off in the distance. This is the massive tree that Mordermoth laid root in that you come to at the end of the Heart of Thorns expansion, and you can just see it off across the mountains and through the clouds. If you are a member of a guild that has this guild hall, I definitely recommend that you come take some time to explore up here. In the number 9 spot is this waterfall in the Wrathy Hinterlands. This is kind of a silly location that a lot of people may find dumb to put on this list, but ask yourself this: have you ever been up here? This is a waterfall located in the Arcallion digs, the massive Skrit area in the northern part of the map. As you wander through the tunnels here, you can find a lot of cool stuff and eventually pass through this area and see some waterfalls. Back in the day, I'm sure there was some way to get up here, but there was no practical way, and it just served as some decorations for this area. A cool waterfall off in the distance of this cave, which that idea alone is super cool, but nowadays with mounts, you can get up here pretty easily and explore it, where it is not a massive area at all. It's a small extension to the cave housing the waterfalls, and you can tell that they did not expect players to get up here since the waterfalls abruptly stop. You can also fly up to the top of the waterfall and see out into the ends of the map where there's just void. Void as in nothingness and not the whole magic thing from End of Dragons. And I just like this spot. It is a random corner of the map that used to serve as decoration, but you can now hang out here amongst the bushes. It might even be a nice spot for hide and seek if you ever play that with some people. In the number 8 spot, I want to stick to the Wrathy Hinterlands for another moment and go explore a cave on the other side of the map, where this is a spot that I am willing to bet a decent amount of people know, but I just had no idea it existed until I came through here on my Let's Play series. You have the large area here of Hangman's Saddle that features a cool old human wall that is taken over by centaurs, where the centaurs have set up their camp here and will attack anyone that passes through. The only important thing of note here is this vista that you can get for map completion. As you get up to the vista to collect it, you climb up onto that cool wall, and where the vista is located at is a small gap you can jump over and get to the other side of the wall where a bunch of centaurs are located, and these centaurs are protecting a small cave. You can clear out the centaurs, including a veteran, to be able to open up a chest which has a tiny bit of stuff inside of it, and the cave itself is pretty basic. It mostly houses the centaurs and the chest with a couple of other decorations, but this spot is just another example of how I have been playing this game since 2012, and I am still discovering new things even though I have gotten road completion upwards of a dozen times. In the number 7 spot is the Abandoned Caverns Access Prohibited Point of Interest located in the ruins of Ren in the Black Citadel. This is a point of interest that most people who have completed the Black Citadel should recognize, especially with its unusual name and how it has parentheses. And you might have taken a moment to see that there is an area back there, but it is walled off, so you moved on. But with the introduction of mounts, or through some older more complicated methods, you could get back here and explore it, where it is a very beautiful cave. You have some Flame Legion devices around here near the entrance to the cave, but as you go further back you can see some ancient Ascalonian ruins with some incredible trees and a small waterfall coming down into here. The waterfall is coming out of an old pipe that goes further into the ruins. You got some chains dangling from the rocks, and it's just an all-around really cool spot. Some players may recognize the spot because you actually come here during the personal story, where for chart players, if you do the Flame Advances mission as a member of the Ash Legion, or the Sins of the Father mission for people who pick their father's backstory to be a sorceress shaman, you will come through this area. But if you don't do either of these stories, there's no way to get into here without jumping or flying into it. In the number 6 spot is the Dead Giant located in the Silverwastes. This is kind of just an area that is out in the open air and hidden in plain sight, but it is just off the beaten track in a way that nobody really ever comes here. It is located in the northeastern corner of the Silverwastes, pretty close to the entrance to Picaroon Scratch, which is a Scrit camp in the map. It is pretty easy to get up to with a mount, but back in the day, or if you don't have a mount, you have to run all the way down the canyon, jump up a little bit, run all the way back, then jump up a little bit again, and run all the way back. So it is definitely a bit of a journey to get here on foot. The area surrounding this place is pretty cool with some old ruins on the cliffsides of the Maguma Desert, and some people may recognize this place from the Lost Badges achievement where you have to come up here for one of the badges. But the coolest part about this place is the dead giant on the ground. It looks like it has been either killed by or is being scavenged by these Scrit, and likely the former for a reason I'll get into in a second. Flying up above the dead giant are a bunch of birds looking down at the giant, and then there are the Scrit themselves. There are a total of 4, 2 foragers and 2 bottle lobbers that are spinning in a circle around the giant before pausing for a moment and then continuing their spinning. This is honestly just a bizarre thing and a fun detail to a relatively random corner of the map. However, nearly 8 years ago now, there was a Reddit post talking about this giant, where there are 2 comments that assert or speculate 2 different ideas for what this giant is for, and both of these are things that I don't remember and can't really verify because it has been so long, but I'll just leave them here. One idea is that this was to point to the fact that the Scrit Scratch would be opened up in a future release, similar to the Centaur and Drytop that hinted towards that map's expansion. And another is that this is an Easter egg to a bug that existed in an earlier release where players are able to beat the giant boss in that map, and other bosses in other maps as well, with Scrit bottles, because the bottles apparently used to deal damage based on health percentage, where we have these Scrit wielding bottles and dancing around a dead giant. And the number 5 spot is the Onager Bivouac. This is one of those areas that you can find throughout Tyria that is its completely own unique area that doesn't have any map completion objectives and not too many important things going on. Because of that, this tends to be an area that a lot of players miss when they are completing the map, despite it being quite a big chunk of the zone, where this area is in Fireheart Rise and is located just southeast of the Highland Thaw on the western side of the map. And like I said, there are no map completion objectives in here, but it still has some interesting stuff going on. It is a location that you go to during the Fixing the Blame story mission that requires you to select that dishonoring your allies is your biggest fear during the personal story. There is a dynamic event that occurs in the open world where you have to fight a bunch of undead mesmer illusions. Which a really interesting thing going on here is that this is an open world event that is likely the direct result of the actions of an individual that you interact with in the story instance in this area. There's also a Scrit outside of this area called the King of Johnville, who claims this place is called Johnville and that he founded it today and is basically establishing the kingdom. And if you look around the cave and read some of the objects that you can read, like this journal, you can learn that this location was home to a packed expedition force that was unfortunately slaughtered. So all in all, there are quite a few things going on in here that are fun little details, but beyond all that, this cave is a pretty beautiful area, especially on the northern end of it where there is a rich platinum vein surrounded by a bunch of trees and some light beaming in. And the number 4 spot is the Maiden's Whisper. I have been sharing some different Order Whisper spaces, and here is another one, and it is kind of a small one, but it is hidden in a pretty cool area of the world, where I've highlighted a ton of different taverns, inns, and other establishments in Guild Wars 2, and some people may recognize this inn from Ebonhawk. Well, there's a similar one located in Divinity's Reach and Workton. Divinity's Reach is home to so many cool taverns, inns, and bars, and this is just another one that I haven't really shown off before in a video. There are multiple floors with a ton of rooms, a cool bar, an awesome fireplace, some cool booths, and many other fun details. But if you go into the kitchen, you can find some bread cooking in a stove, a lot of different cooking utensils, and a ton of other details. And down the staircase, you can find the basement to this establishment housing some barrels and sacks and whatnot, but in the back of the basement is a lone Order of Whispers agent by the name of Willow who has a whole operation set up down here. And it's a pretty standard Order of Whispers operation, some documents, some cool tools, and some basic supplies. But this location only has the one agent, and she does say something really interesting to fellow Order of Whispers agents, and it's also bugged in that she says it to Dermot Priory people as well, where she says that she is waiting at this place until her contact arrives, where the Order of Whispers is sending her on a new mission that is likely a mission to take possession of some important object in Lion's Arch. This character was introduced with the release of Vanilla and has not been updated since then, so what her mission is exactly or what this potential object could be is still a mystery to this day. And the number 3 spot is only Zuhl. This is a pretty big jumping puzzle located in Timberline Falls, where there are 2 special areas in this place that I want to highlight, but let's go over the jumping puzzle since it is a hidden area in its own right. But starting from Foundation 86, which is another Order Whisper space but a bit less hidden, you can enter some dredge caves where there are several different sections that you have to work through. Climbing past ice formations, jumping down a large hole with flames shooting out at you, and dropping into a massive cave that has a ton of lava, fire, monsters, and pipes that you have to climb around on, until you get to the final room that has a small boss and your reward. This is overall a pretty decent jumping puzzle. It's not my favorite in the game, but I definitely love the vibes of this place. But something that many players may not realize is that there is a bonus chest that you can get in the area where you are jumping down the large hole with flames shooting out at you, where partway down is a small hole you can go through with the chest. But it is trapped in not one, but two ways, where as you come through the hole, there's a volatile destroyer that will blow up on you and deal a ton of damage, where if you survive the destroyer and head to the chest, rocks will begin falling from the ceiling that you need to be careful of. But should you survive both traps, the second wish is pretty easy to avoid. You can get this bonus chest. But a second area that less players may know about is the exit to this place. Most of the time, players will reach the end chest and just waypoint out of this cave, since that is the easiest way to leave. But if you want a more organic escape, you can find a tunnel on the southern end of the massive cave that has a bunch of traps, falling rocks, and more volatile destroyers. You can get past all these obstacles and find a hole that you can jump down into that will take you to another part of these dredge caves, but basically on the other side of the massive mountain here, where you can see hints down here that point to there being something interesting up the hole you just dropped down from, which is a cool hint for players coming into the map from this direction and you haven't seen the jumping puzzle yet. In the number 2 spot is the special torch room in the Ascalonian Catacombs. Ascalonian Catacombs is a really cool dungeon because of how many special hidden areas are located across the dungeon. We got the special jumping puzzle, the cool turkey room, and now this area which is super cool. Near the start of the dungeon from the explorable paths, you can find the Derman Priory camp that is the staging point for this dungeon. No matter what path you choose, you run down the stairs, past a ton of traps, and fight a bunch of spiders. But if you take a moment as you get down the stairs to turn around, you can find a special room. Just like the rest of the Ascalonian Catacombs, this is a dank area with a ruined Ascalonian architecture, some torches, chains, and whatnot. But this room specifically is some sort of jail, where you can find a couple of cells with bars that the Ascalonians would have locked something or someone inside of. Why exactly there are cells in a sprawling underground catacombs is kind of beyond me, but it may be related to the undead or other monsters in some way, or some really messed up Granth acolytes. But as you have seen on your screen, in this area is an airy blue light that is shining from one of the cells, where the entire cell is lit up with this blue hue and is shining onto the ground outside of the cell, where the most likely lore explanation is that this light may have something to do with the full fire, because we know the full fire caused a lot of blue fire to erupt and whatnot, or maybe there was a powerful creature locked in this cell that was obliterated by the full fire, like the Char were, and the essence of that being is still radiating here today. One final cool part about this room is a torch located in the corner of this room, where interacting with this torch will summon a group of ghosts that will begin attacking you. And now for the number 1 spot, for the final hidden area that I want to highlight on this list, and it is another area that is hidden in plain sight and is decently well known, but I wanted to showcase it anyways, and it is a massive windmill located in the Shaymore Fields. This is a building that most players should recognize, especially anyone who has played a human character, where overlooking the fields and located at Jeb's wheat field is this massive windmill that is basically the central landmark of this entire area here. It is a really cool building that I love a lot, but what some players may not know is that you can go inside of the building and it is incredibly decorated. You can just run up the ramps here, find the main entrance to this place and walk right in, and there's also a side entrance you can find as well. There are a ton of different floors, you can find all the windmill mechanisms and see all the wheat that is being milled. There are a ton of moving parts that add so much detail. You can find a ton of workers all around here doing different things, like this one worker bringing stuff from inside to this wagon. You can find a ton of supplies all around this building. You can head upstairs and find multiple rooms, including this bed in the corner that has a cat playing on it, and just so many other details. I just absolutely love interiors in games, and this is one of the best ones in Guild Wars 2. There are so many fun details, and I just love how immersive this area is. This spot is decently well known, but it is just one of those things where it is just out of the way, and if you don't notice the doors, you don't really think to go inside of it, where if you haven't been here yet, I highly recommend you check it out. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. These are a few more fun hidden areas around the world of Tyria. If there is anything you would like me to highlight in a future video, feel free to leave it down in the comments and I'll take it into consideration. I've loved making these videos and I plan to continue doing so in the future. I hope you are taking good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.